Hey everybody, Pastor JD here. Just so you know, if you're looking at the picture in the lower right of your screen, I am on vacation, so I'm not in my normal location and not using my normal equipment and dressed like I just woke up in the morning. So that's a little explanation for that. You may also hear the kids screaming in the next room. That's part of life. And so I wanted to walk us through, for those of you that are interested in this and following along. This is primarily for the preaching and exposition class, but I'm making this available for anybody on our channel. So if you're interested in how I go about preparing for a sermon, this is my first look at the text that's coming up for this Sunday. We are in I am number 12. So we've been doing the I am series, Jesus's I am statements, and we're in number 12, John 10 through 18. I'm using Bible Arc, of course. This is my go-to, my bread and butter for preparation. So, and as you can see here, I've got the English on the one side and I've got the Greek on the other. All I have done so far is I have divided the text. So for those of you that know the passes, you know the process. I've done the first step in the process by just dividing the text up according to its main phrases and prepositions and subordinate conjunctions and all of that stuff that those of us in class learned about in our grammar. I've also come across here and I've also divided the Greek. So if you're very technical and you know the Greek, there are a few places where the Greek is out of order with the English, and so I've had to just do my best over here. But I'm primarily looking at the English, and the Greek will help me from time to time. Okay, so we are in the Good Shepherd passages. We're in the John 10. Patrick did a great job. As I'm recording this video just an hour ago, Patrick did a great job of doing John 10, 1 through 9. And so I'm picking up on John 10, 10, and I'll be going through 18. So let's take a look at the text. Other than what I've done, this is the first time I'm looking at the text. So the thief, which I know Jesus has already talked about the thief just a few verses earlier, about how the thief comes into the the sheep pen, and not through the door. And now he's telling us that the thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. Now, for my purposes, I could put these all separately. Hey guys, can you shut the door for Daddy? I'm recording. Thank you. Kids are in the other room. I could put all these separately. They to steal, kill, destroy. For now, I'm just going to leave them all in the same line. I'll probably go back and look and see, is there a difference between stealing, killing, and destroying, or is this all the same idea here that's just being communicated three different ways? I mean, I know that stealing is different from killing, but is this? It's kind of, yeah. Is there theological distinction? I think is the way I would say it, between these words, or are we basically saying one idea? Now, there's a comparison between the thief and Jesus. Jesus has been doing this already, right? He's comparing the thief to himself, but here's what he does. I came that they may have life and have it abundantly. So he came that they may have life, and then there's a repetition of this statement, basically, not just to have life, but to have it in abundance. Abounding is the Greek word. So I am going to give this a, let's see, I'm going to give this a space here. I am the good shepherd. So here it starts with a comparison, thief and Jesus. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd, okay, so we're giving greater explanation as to what Jesus is here, right? The good shepherd lays down his life. So it's a main phrase, but it's explaining the I am the good shepherd. And who does he lay his life down for? The sheep. For the sheep. Okay. On behalf of, huper here is on behalf of, or yeah, for the benefit of, that idea. He, who's this? He who is a hired hand, break, and not a shepherd, who does not own the sheep, he sees the wolf coming and leaves the sheep and flees. Okay, so I think what we're getting here is we're getting an overall description of the comparison, thief versus Jesus. Then here's Jesus, and here's Jesus further explained. Here is the thief further explained. That's how I'm seeing this so far. Okay, so I'm bringing both of these in, and I'm saying the main thing that he's doing here is a simple compare and contrast. Compare, contrast, well, mostly contrast. Thief contrasted with Jesus. Explanation of Jesus, explanation of the thief. Okay, so that's what I've got. What does a thief do? Sees the wolf coming. But who is he? He's a hired hand. Okay, not exactly the same. Jesus changed the metaphor a little bit, right? The hired hand is not a thief. It's not illegal what the hired hand is doing, but clearly the hired hand is not the shepherd, right? He is, let's see, let me break this part. And not, he's not the shepherd who does not own the sheep. Hired hand and not the shepherd. Let me break that. Let's just bring that back a little bit. And not the shepherd. He does, the one who does not own the sheep. Okay, so I think we've got a description here of not the shepherd and does not own the sheep is further explaining the not the shepherd and being the hired hand. So bring that in. What does he do? He sees a wolf coming. He leaves the sheep. He flees, and the wolf snatches them and scatters them. I could break this up here too. All right. So what do we have so far? Contrast between the thief and Jesus. The good shepherd is Jesus. We switch the metaphor slightly to the hired hand. That makes things a little difficult as far as just explaining, when metaphors are shifting. Paul, by the way, does this a lot. He shifts metaphors around. He'll use one metaphor and then another sentence he'll slightly change that metaphor. Jesus is doing it here. It's not by any means it's not bad logic. It presents challenges when you're trying to bring everybody in and help them to understand the overall picture. But there's a hired hand now. Hired hand's kind of like the thief, doesn't care about the sheep. That's what they have in common. But the hired hand is supposed to be caring for the sheep. But here's what the hired hand does. He sees the wolf coming. He leaves, he flees. The wolf then snatches them and he scatters them. So, obviously, a description of those who have been responsible to lead, or who have had the responsibility of leading Israel, but they really don't care about Israel. And by the way, this is all going back to John, earlier in John 10, where he's, talking about the those who don't care about the sheep. But it even goes back, as Patrick did a great job explaining. It goes back to John 9 and the way that they treated the man born blind as being one of the sheep of Israel, but the Pharisees were the ones who treated him poorly. Going back all the way to Ezekiel 34, where God says, "You have been bad shepherds, and I am going to then take over as the shepherd, and I'm going to come as the good shepherd, or as the shepherd of the sheep." And then Jesus is the fulfillment of Ezekiel 34 and God's promise to come and be a shepherd. So that's what we've got going on in the background. He is gonna continue to talk about this hired hand. Okay, he is this he. Now, to make that clear, I'm gonna throw an arrow in here, and just to make sure we have that clear in our minds. He flees. Well, why does he flee? Because he's a hired hand. And hired hands, according to Jesus, they care nothing for the sheep. Okay? They have no actual love in their hearts for the sheep. They're just doing a job. And now, back to the comparison. remember, we're doing a comparison between the thief, maybe the thief and the hired hand, maybe those that don't care, and Jesus. We're back to Jesus here. I am the good shepherd. Tell me more. Explanation. I know my own, and my own know me. Just as the Father knows me, and I know the Father. So what is it? What do you mean that you know them and they know you, Jesus? Well, let me explain further how I know my own. I know my own in the same way that I know the Father, and they know me in the same way that the Father knows me. Wow, some rich, incredible theology here, because he's comparing the relationship he has with his sheep, his people, to the relationship he has with the Father. Now that's, boy, later on in John 16, I believe, in 17, Jesus is going to talk about this comparison again between him and those who have been given to him, those who he loves, and then his relationship to the Father, and the relationship between him and the Father, and then between him and those he loves, and it's going to be all brought into one. It's we enter if I could say it very provocatively, we enter into the Trinity. Not that we become God, but we enter into the Trinitarian love of God when we come to know Jesus. And so there's already a hint that there's a connection here between Jesus' love for the Father and then those who Jesus knows and loves, his people, and his love for them and their love for him. And he says, and I lay down my life for the sheep. Now, I tried to look this up before coming to this video, and I could not figure out what this is. All I can tell you guys is it only occurs in the Greek. This little star here, they're trying to tell us something. I have been unable to figure out what it is, to be honest with you. I will continue to look, but it only occurs in this particular Greek text form, the NA28. The UBS 4, the UBS 5 doesn't have it. I looked at a textual commentary just to look up those who are figuring out what the actual Greek text is. They say nothing about this, so I'm at a total loss as far as what this means. So I'm going to ignore it for now. And let's see. I know the Father, and I lay my life down for the sheep. Part of the problem with this line is I can't quite figure out how it flows with the logic here. Okay, so I'm not sure. I'm gonna just mark this with a highlight. This is not something that I do a lot, but I'm gonna just mark it there and say, hey, come back to this and figure out what exactly is going on there. And I have other sheep that are not of this fold. Okay, well, I think this is going back to a description of him as the Good Shepherd. He knows his own, but he doesn't just have his own in Israel. He has other sheep that are outside of the fold. He says, I must bring them also, talking about the other sheep. So let's bring that in. And they will listen to my voice. So again, talking about the and is going to line up with them. Bring them in. They will listen to my voice. So there will be one flock. Okay. So the results, or the problem is here is I see the Greek over here, and if you are picking up a little bit of the Greek, you might recognize this word kai, which typically is and. It's just a kai here. It's not what we've looked for before. We've seen inferences. So this is a little confusing, because if you were doing this in English, those of you who are in the expository preaching class, you would think, that's an inference. I got to pull that out. But because I see it in the Greek, I'm going to actually do it the way it is in the Greek. I'm going to say, no, that's a result. There's a result here. Not an inference, but a result. It's a kai. It's an and. So, and there will be one flock, one shepherd. So I must bring them also. And when I bring them, they will listen to my voice. And when they've listened to my voice and I've brought them, there will be one flock and one shepherd. So that'll be the results of this, not an inference from it. If that's confusing everybody else, don't worry about that. That was a note for the preaching class. For this reason, the Father loves me. Okay, so now we seem to be changing themes here a little bit. In fact, for now, for this reason, the Father loves me, because I lay my life down, and I lay my life down that I may take it up again. The issue that I'm having is I'm trying to figure out if this now falls on its own line as a new main phrase. So we've got the comparison between the thief and the shepherd. We've been talking about either the thief or the hired hand or the shepherd for these last few verses here. And then all of a sudden we have a reason for the Father's love, which is very theologically significant. The question is just, where does it fit? All right, I'm going to move on. I'm going to leave this on the far left for now. Because I lay my life down, that I may take it up again. No one takes it from me. Okay, I lay my life down. Let me clarify, let me explain the laying of the life down. No one takes it from me, but I lay it down of my own accord. And I would say, because, I would give this a syndeton here, a for, or because I have authority to lay it down, and I have authority to take it up again. So why do I lay it down? How am I able to lay it down of my own accord? Because I have authority to do that. I'm not like human beings who someone else can act upon us against our will, right, and hurt us or kill us. Jesus says that's not true of me. No one is actually able to take my life from me, but I can lay my life down. I have authority to lay it down, and I have authority to take it up again. So obviously speaking about his resurrection. This charge, okay, I'm going to assume that's the laying down and taking up again. This charge I've received of the Father, okay? I could point this anywhere, but point it back to the laying down. Okay, so the struggle that I'm going to have, I'm going to see a pretty big break here, because up until this point, it's all been about, up above, it's been all about a comparison. And then down here, I've got the reason that the Father loves him and more about the plan and his authority and his power in that plan. So I've got a break there. I got to figure out how these two are related, and that's going to be the challenge. But for these verses here, these 7 verses, it seems very clear to me that we are doing a compare and a contrast here. And so the shepherd, the hired hand, the shepherd, which is very common, by the way. You see these sandwiches here. This is something John loves to do. He's going to start with one. He's going to go to the one that's he's going to start with Jesus. He's going to go to those who are not Jesus, and he's going to come back to Jesus again. So you see that sandwich there, and I'll mark that sandwich off there and there. Okay. So again, we're doing this compare and contrast thing. Arrows here. These are just explanatory. We're going to get a couple of these. These are all pointing to he. Who's the he? He who is the hired hand, and he who's not the shepherd. And then he who does not own the sheep. I'm just going to point to hired hand. Hired hand doesn't own the sheep. Okay, and then here's this is basically connecting up here. He flees. Why? Because he is the hired hand, and because he cares nothing for the sheep. Um, but Jesus, on the other hand, is the good shepherd. He knows his own, and his own know him. Um, and being the good shepherd, he also has other sheep who are not of this fold. So, just as the Father knows me and I know the Father, um, I'm going to back out on this one. I don't think this is right. I think actually the just as is going to come here. Just as I lay down my life for the sheep. This is the one that's confusing to me. I'm still not sure what to do with it. Just as, and then we're going to leave that there. Okay, so just as the Father knows me, my own know me. And just as I know the Father, I know them. Again, there's that intra-Trinitarian thing going on there that's amazing that I'm going to have to bring into the preaching as I start writing this. And I have other sheep who are not of this fold. Talking now about the other sheep, I must bring them also, and they will listen to my voice, and then as a result, there will be one flock. Okay. Then we got this, for this reason the Father loves me. So for this reason the Father loves me. I will tell you this, there is nowhere else in the Bible that you will get a reason for the Father's love for Jesus. I mean, the Father's love for Jesus is it's always been. It's the way I could say it is, it's the love that God has for the Son, you could say in one sense, is dependent upon nothing. But here, at least for the purposes of this context and where we are right now, Jesus says, but there is a reason. There is, I think you could write a 30-page paper on this one line alone, because what does it mean that there's a reason, that there's something grounding the love of the Father? And it makes us do things like this. It makes us ask questions like, well, what if Jesus didn't lay down his life? Would the Father love him? The language here, and it's the same in the Greek, diatuto, for this reason, the language here makes it sound for a moment that the Father would not love him if he didn't lay down his life. But then it's a silly thing to ask, right? Because what universe, we don't have an alternate universe where Jesus didn't lay down his life. He, of course, laid down his life because it was in Jesus all along to lay down his life. It was part of who he was. And maybe that's what we need to get after, is that there is something in Jesus that the Father loves. And one theologian called it a downwardness. And what he meant by that, he was a German, so it's sometimes tough to translate the German into English. But what he meant by that is that there's something of a humble movement to servitude and to subservience that is in Christ. And we see it in him laying down his life. That's always been in Jesus. And so the Father loves that about Jesus. And is that not in the Father? It's not exactly true that it's not in the Father, but it's uniquely displayed. How about this? It's uniquely displayed in Jesus. It's not the Father who hangs on the cross. It's Jesus who hangs on the cross. What did that demonstrate? It demonstrated humility and subservience. Does the Father have those qualities and character in him? Sure, yes. We have to say yes. But it was uniquely displayed in the Son. And the Father loved that display. So, rich theology, tough theology here. We're just going to go ahead and phrase it for now. There's a purpose that he laid his life down. He laid his life down so that he would take it up again. Because no one takes it from him, but he lays it down of his own accord. Now, why can no one take it from him? Why does he lay it down of his own accord? Because he has authority. He's not, no one tells him what to do. Jesus does what he is going to do. And in this charge, it's technically connected both ways here. This charge I've received from the Father. Okay, so challenging stuff. Challenging stuff. Comparison is my main thing here. Comparing the thief to Jesus, comparing the hired hand to Jesus. And then down here, the reason that the Father loves him is because of this downwardness, this ability, this character quality to lay down his life. So lots to think about, lots more work to do, but I wanted to give you guys a chance to see this first pass through. And I wish everybody a happy new year. We just had Christmas, and we will see you all on Sunday, and hope you'll join us as we're going to be online again. I'm going to make an announcement again. We'll be online again for this week. So I wish you all the best, and have a great day, everybody.